Alexandria, 48 BC, a woman is being smuggled into the palace of the most powerful man on earth. She's rolled inside a carpet, bound tight, barely breathing. One wrong move and the guards will discover her. One shout and she's dead. The carpet unfurls at Julius Caesar's feet. Out steps a 21-year-old girl who's been exiled from her own kingdom, hunted by her brother's assassins, and left with absolutely nothing. Within hours, she'll have Caesar wrapped around her finger. Within months, she'll reclaim her throne. Within years, she'll seduce a second Roman general and nearly bring the empire to its knees. Her name was Cleopatra. And this is the story of how one woman used intelligence, charisma, and ruthless ambition to manipulate the two most powerful men in the ancient world, and almost change the course of Western civilization forever. If you love stories about power, seduction, and empires on the edge of collapse, hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss what happens next. Let's rewind. Egypt, 51 BC. Cleopatra is 18 years old when her father dies. His name is Ptolemy XII, and he's left behind a mess. The royal treasury is bankrupt, the people are starving, and Rome is circling like a vulture. The Ptolemaic dynasty has ruled Egypt for 3 centuries, but it's rotting from within. Incest, murder, betrayal. Every succession is a bloodbath. Every pharaoh lives in fear of being poisoned by their own family. Cleopatra's father knew this, so in his will, he did something desperate. He left the throne to Cleopatra and her 10-year-old brother Ptolemy XIII. Together they're supposed to rule as co-regents. Co-regents, what a joke. Within months, the palace advisors make their move. They're loyal to Ptolemy, not Cleopatra. Why? Because a child is easier to control than a brilliant, ambitious young woman who speaks 9 languages and has studied philosophy, mathematics, and military strategy. They spread rumours. They whisper poison in the boy king's ear. They turn the court against her. By 48 BC, Cleopatra is forced to flee Alexandria. She escapes into the desert with a handful of loyal followers. No army, no money, no leverage. Her brother's soldiers are hunting her. If they catch her, she's dead. Not imprisoned, not exiled. Dead. Because that's how the Ptolemies solve their problems, with a blade in the dark. But Cleopatra isn't planning to die in the desert. She's planning something far more dangerous. She's planning to seduce Julius Caesar. Here's the thing about Julius Caesar. In 48 BC, he's not yet the dictator of Rome. He's in the middle of a brutal civil war against Pompey the Great. He's chasing Pompey across the Mediterranean, crushing armies, burning cities, rewriting the map of the ancient world. And Pompey, he runs to Egypt. Because Egypt is rich. Egypt has grain. Egypt has gold. The boy king Ptolemy XIII and his advisors see an opportunity. If they kill Pompey and hand his head to Caesar, maybe Rome will be grateful. Maybe Rome will leave them alone. So they do it. They lure Pompey onto a boat. They stab him in the back. They cut off his head and present it to Caesar as a gift. Caesar arrives in Alexandria expecting gratitude. Instead, he finds Pompey's severed head wrapped in cloth, and he weeps. Not because he loved Pompey. They were enemies, but because Pompey was a Roman citizen, a consul, a general, and these Egyptian children murdered him like a common thief. Caesar is disgusted, insulted, and suddenly very, very interested in Egypt's internal politics, which is exactly what Cleopatra was counting on. The carpet plan is genius. Cleopatra knows she can't just walk into the palace. Her brother's guards will kill her on sight. So she contacts one of her few remaining allies, a Sicilian merchant named Apollodorus. They wait until nightfall. Apollodorus rolls Cleopatra into a large carpet. Or maybe it's a linen sack. The sources disagree. Either way, it's cramped, suffocating, and absolutely terrifying. He carries her through the palace gates, past the guards, up the stairs, directly to Caesar's chambers. The carpet unfurls, and there she is. Caesar is 52 years old. He's seen everything, conquered Gaul, crossed the Rubicon, defeated armies 10 times his size. But he's never seen anything like this. Cleopatra doesn't beg. She doesn't grovel. She speaks to him as an equal, in flawless Latin, with wit, charm, and absolute confidence. She explains the situation. Her brother is weak. His advisors are corrupt. Egypt is unstable. And instability is bad for Rome. But if Caesar supports her, if he helps her reclaim the throne, she'll be Rome's most loyal ally. She'll open Egypt's treasuries. She'll supply grain, gold, and whatever else Rome needs. It's a brilliant pitch, strategic, transactional, but it's not just politics, there's chemistry. Caesar is captivated, not just by her beauty, though she is beautiful, not just by her intelligence, though she is brilliant, but by her audacity. This girl smuggled herself into his bedroom in a carpet to make her case. Who does that? By morning, Caesar has made his decision. He's backing Cleopatra, and Ptolemy XIII? He's about to have a very bad day. The boy king is furious. His advisors tell him Caesar has been seduced, bewitched. They call Cleopatra a sorceress, a temptress, a threat to Egypt's sovereignty. They mobilize the army, 20,000 soldiers. They surround the palace. They cut off the water supply. They prepare to starve Caesar out. But Caesar doesn't starve easily. He's fought in Gaul, where the winters were brutal and the tribes were savage. He's crossed deserts, swamps, and rivers to kill his enemies. He's not about to be intimidated by a teenage king and his advisors. He barricades himself inside the palace with 4,000 soldiers, and then he does something insane. He sets fire to the Egyptian fleet. The flames spread. They jump from ship to ship. The harbour becomes an inferno. Smoke billows into the sky. And somewhere in that chaos, the fire reaches the docks. The Library of Alexandria is nearby. Some sources say it burned, some say it didn't. We'll never know for sure, but the symbolism's perfect. Caesar is willing to burn the ancient world to the ground if it means winning. For months, it's a siege. Street fighting, skirmishes, assassinations. The palace becomes a fortress. Cleopatra and Caesar are trapped inside, surrounded by enemies waiting for reinforcements. And during those long nights, something happens. They fall in love. Or maybe it's not love. Maybe it's convenience. Maybe it's strategy. Maybe it's just two brilliant, ambitious people recognizing themselves in each other. Either way, Cleopatra gets pregnant. By 47 BC, Roman reinforcements arrive. They crush Ptolemy's army. The boy king flees. He tries to escape across the Nile, but his boat capsizes. He drowns, weighed down by his golden armor. Cleopatra is now the undisputed ruler of Egypt. And Caesar? He's the father of her child. She names him Caesarion, Little Caesar. It's a power move, a declaration. This child is the future, the bridge between Egypt and Rome, the heir to two empires, but there's a problem. Caesar already has a wife back in Rome, Calpurnia. And Roman law doesn't recognize foreign marriages, so officially Caesarion is a bastard. But Cleopatra doesn't care about Roman law. She's a pharaoh, a living god. And she's just given birth to the son of the most powerful man in the world. She invites Caesar to cruise down the Nile with her. For months they travel in luxury, gold-plated barges, thousands of servants, endless banquets. It's a honeymoon, a victory lap, a display of wealth and power that makes Rome look like a backwater village. Caesar is mesmerized, but eventually duty calls. He has to return to Rome, finish the civil war, consolidate power. Cleopatra follows him. In 46 BC, she arrives in Rome with Caesarion. Caesar installs her in one of his villas. He commissions a golden statue of her and places it in the Temple of Venus, a foreign queen, in Rome, treated like royalty. The Senate is horrified. The people whisper, is Caesar planning to make himself king? Is he going to marry this Egyptian witch? Is he going to move the capital to Alexandria? The rumours swirl, the tension builds, and then, on March 15th, 44 BC, everything collapses. The Ides of March. Caesar walks into the Senate. He's surrounded by senators, friends, allies, and then the knives come out. 23 stab wounds, blood pooling on the marble floor. The greatest general in Roman history butchered like an animal. Cleopatra is still in Rome when it happens. She hears the news. The mob is coming. They're angry. They're looking for scapegoats. And she's the most visible foreigner in the city. She flees back to Egypt immediately, takes Caesarion with her, leaves everything behind. Back in Alexandria, she mourns. But she also calculates. Caesar is dead, but Rome is still the most powerful force in the world. And Rome is about to tear itself apart. There will be another civil war, another power struggle, another strong man. And when that man emerges, Cleopatra will be ready. The next few years are chaos. Caesar's assassins Brutus and Cassius flee east. They raise armies. They promise to restore the Republic, but Caesar's allies aren't backing down. Mark Antony, Caesar's right-hand man, teams up with Octavian, Caesar's adopted heir. Together they hunt down the assassins. In 42 BC, they crush Brutus and Cassius at the Battle of Philippi. The Republic is dead. Long live the new order. Antony and Octavian divide the Roman world between them. Octavian takes the west, Antony takes the east, and the east means Egypt. Antony summons Cleopatra to meet him in Tarsus, a city in modern-day Turkey. He wants money, troops, support for his campaigns in Parthia. Cleopatra knows this is her moment. She's done this before. She seduced Caesar. She can seduce Antony. But this time, she's not arriving in a carpet. She's arriving like a goddess. The entrance is legendary. Cleopatra sails up the river on a golden barge. The sails are purple silk. The oars are silver. Incense burns on deck, filling the air with perfume. She's dressed as Aphrodite, the goddess of love. Her attendants are dressed as nymphs and cupids. Musicians play flutes and lyres. The whole scene looks like something out of mythology. The crowds gather on the shore, they stare, they whisper. Is this a queen or a goddess? Antony is waiting in the marketplace. He's prepared a formal reception. Speeches, ceremonies, the usual diplomatic theatre. But nobody shows up. Everyone's at the riverbank watching Cleopatra's arrival. Antony is humiliated and intrigued. He sends a message. He invites her to dinner. She declines. Instead, she invites him to dinner, on her barge. And when Antony arrives, he's overwhelmed. The opulence, the beauty, the sheer spectacle of it all. They talk, they drink, they flirt. And just like Caesar, Antony is captivated. But Cleopatra isn't just seducing Antony. She's negotiating. She knows what he wants. Money for his wars, grain for his armies, Egypt's resources, and she knows what she wants. Protection from Rome, recognition of her power, expansion of her territory. They strike a deal. Antony will support her. She'll support him. And then, inevitably, they become lovers. But unlike Caesar, Antony doesn't just visit Egypt. He moves there. He abandons his wife, Octavia, who happens to be Octavian's sister. He dresses in Egyptian clothes. He participates in Egyptian rituals. He calls himself the new Dionysus. He's gone native. And Cleopatra, she's pregnant again, twins this time, a boy and a girl, Alexander Helios and Cleopatra Selene, sun and moon. Back in Rome, Octavian is seething. His sister has been humiliated. His rival has been seduced by a foreign queen. The East is slipping away. He begins a propaganda campaign. He calls Cleopatra a witch, a whore, a threat to Roman civilization. He says she's drugged Antony, bewitched him, turned him into her puppet. And slowly, carefully, Octavian prepares for war. The showdown takes years to build. Antony and Cleopatra have more children. They throw extravagant parties. They declare themselves rulers of the Eastern Mediterranean. In 34 BC, Antony holds a ceremony in Alexandria. It's called the Donations of Alexandria. He sits on a golden throne next to Cleopatra. She's dressed as the goddess Isis. Their children are dressed as kings and queens. Antony declares Caesarion the true heir of Julius Caesar. Not Octavian, Caesarion. He divides the eastern territories among Cleopatra's children. Egypt, Syria, Libya, Parthia. Territories that don't even belong to him yet. It's an insult, a provocation, a declaration of independence from Rome. Octavian reads the reports and smiles. This is exactly what he needed. He stands before the Senate and reads Antony's will. Or claims to. The will supposedly says Antony wants to be buried in Alexandria, not Rome. The Senate is outraged. Octavian declares war. Not on Antony directly. That would be another civil war, and Romans are tired of civil wars. No, he declares war on Cleopatra, the foreign queen who has corrupted a Roman general, the Egyptian sorceress who threatens the Republic. It's brilliant propaganda, and it works. September 2nd, 31 BC. The Battle of Actium. Antony and Cleopatra's fleet faces off against Octavian's navy in the waters off western Greece. It's supposed to be a decisive battle, winner takes all. But something goes wrong. Cleopatra's ships are heavy, slow, built for luxury, not war. Antony's crews are exhausted, sick, demoralized. Octavian's Admiral Agrippa is a tactical genius. The battle begins. Ships ram into each other. Arrows fly. Men scream. And then, inexplicably, Cleopatra's flagship turns and runs. Her entire squadron follows. Antony sees her fleeing. He abandons his own fleet. He jumps onto a smaller ship and chases after her. His men watch in horror. Their commander is deserting them. The fleet collapses. Thousands surrender. Thousands more die. Antony catches up to Cleopatra's ship. He climbs aboard. He doesn't speak to her. For 3 days he sits at the prow, silent, staring at the sea. He's lost everything. They retreat to Alexandria. They know Octavian is coming. They know it's over. But they don't surrender. They don't flee. Instead, they throw parties. They form a new drinking club. They call it the Partners in Death. Every night they feast, they drink, they laugh. It's defiance or denial, or maybe just two people refusing to go quietly. Antony tries to rally his forces. He sends messages to his allies. He begs for reinforcements. Nobody comes. One by one, his generals defect. His soldiers desert. His friends abandon him. By July 30th BC, Octavian's army is at the gates of Alexandria. Antony leads a desperate cavalry charge. Against all odds, he wins a small skirmish. He rushes back to the palace, covered in blood, grinning like a madman. But the next day, his fleet surrenders without a fight. His cavalry defects. It's over. Someone tells him Cleopatra is dead, that she's killed herself. He doesn't verify it. He doesn't question it. He just asks his servant Eros to kill him. Eros refuses, so he stabs himself instead. But he doesn't stab himself in the right place. The wound is fatal but slow. He's lying on the floor, bleeding out when a messenger arrives. Cleopatra isn't dead. She's barricaded herself in her tomb with her treasure. Antony's men carry him to the tomb. They hoist him up through a window. He dies in Cleopatra's arms. His last words are advice, practical, cold. Trust Octavian. Octavian enters Alexandria as a conqueror. He finds Cleopatra in her tomb. She's surrounded by gold, jewels, and incense. She's dressed as a pharaoh. She tries one last time. She uses every trick she used on Caesar and Antony. The charm, the wit, the intelligence. But Octavian is not Caesar. He's not Antony. He's 20 years younger than Cleopatra. He's cold, calculating, immune to her charisma. He tells her she'll be taken to Rome. She'll be paraded through the streets. She'll be displayed in his triumph like a captured animal. Cleopatra understands. She asks for permission to perform funeral rites for Antony. Octavian agrees. She goes to Antony's tomb, she says goodbye, and then she returns to her chambers. On August 12th, 30 BC, Cleopatra kills herself. The method is disputed. Some say an aspi, a venomous snake smuggled in a basket of figs. Others say poison hidden in a hairpin. We'll never know. What we do know is this. She died on her own terms. She denied Octavian his triumph. She was 39 years old. Octavian orders Caesarion killed. He's 17, old enough to be a rival, old enough to challenge Octavian's claim as Caesar's heir. There's a famous quote, possibly invented, "Two Caesars are too many. Cleopatra's other children are spared. They're taken to Rome, raised by Octavian's sister, Octavia, the woman Antony abandoned. Egypt becomes a Roman province. The Ptolemaic dynasty ends after 300 years. The age of pharaohs is over. Rome wins. But here's the thing. Cleopatra lost the war, but she won the myth. 2,000 years later, we still remember her. We make movies about her, write plays, paint portraits. We remember her as the woman who seduced 2 emperors, who nearly brought Rome to its knees, who died rather than submit. We don't remember the names of Octavian's wives. We barely remember Octavian himself, except as Caesar Augustus. But we remember Cleopatra because she wasn't just beautiful. She was brilliant, fluent in 9 languages, educated in philosophy, mathematics, and strategy. She ruled Egypt for 22 years. In a world dominated by men, in a dynasty drowning in violence, she held power longer than almost anyone. And she did it through intelligence, charisma, and sheer force of will. Yes, she seduced Caesar and Antony. But let's be clear, they didn't seduce her. She seduced them. She saw opportunities and she took them. She gambled everything repeatedly and came within inches of reshaping the ancient world. If Actium had gone differently, if Antony's fleet had held, if Octavian had been defeated, Rome might have split. the capital might have moved to Alexandria. The Western Empire might have faded while the East flourished. Christianity might never have spread the way it did. Islam might have emerged differently. The entire trajectory of Western civilization could have changed. But it didn't. Cleopatra rolled the dice and lost. And yet, even in defeat, she remains immortal. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of history's most fascinating figures, consider hitting that like button and subscribing for more stories about power, ambition, and the people who change the world. Thanks for watching. And remember, history isn't just about kings and generals, sometimes it's about a 21-year-old girl rolled up in a carpet.